Hey guys, Ethan here with a few tips for superheroes and super users. This is going to be kind of a fun companion video which goes along with an article we wrote called 3 Tips for Superheroes and Super Users. Basically outlines a couple ideas for beginners that are going to help you lock down your server and ensure that you don't do anything destructive by accident. So we'll just dive right in here and I'll show you how to implement this from the ground up. Okay, I'm going to come over here to, this is a brand new Ubuntu 14.04 snapshot. I haven't done anything to it. And we're going to do a couple of things. A quick outline. There are 3 basically things we talk about. The first is that you don't want to use your root user all the time for everyday tasks. Now, the advanced guys, obviously much more comfortable with doing this. In fact, having root access, which Terminal.com gives you right off the bat, is a huge advantage. One of the big reasons a lot of people go with us is for the root access. But if you're new to, especially to the Linux operating system or to running on the command line, you want to be careful using root. And even the Ubuntu developers suggest that you don't use it for day-to-day tasks because it's an administrative user and it can do pretty much anything it wants, which means you can make really destructive changes and the computer's never going to second guess you. So locking down root user gives you one step of control between you and any potentially destructive changes. So that's what we're going to do. But having a day-to-day, while having a day-to-day user is great, it would be a pain to have to transfer back and forth, logging in and out of accounts all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to give that day-to-day user the ability to tap into administrative powers if it needs to. The final thing we're going to do is secure the SSH port a little bit by switching which port SSH is running on for this particular terminal. And I'll get into that in detail in a little bit, but to start out, all you need to know is that we're going to SSH into this terminal from the command line of our local. In order to do that, you've got to know what your password is for the root account here. Now, if you forgot your password, or and you haven't set a password, you can set it very simply by just running the passwd command. Hit enter, it'll ask you to enter your new password, and no characters are going to show up. That's for security reasons. Try to make sure they match. There we go. So I've gone ahead and set the password, and we'll use that to SSH in later. Okay, first thing we want to do, like I said, we're going to start off talking about how to secure your account by eliminating root user access. Or rather, we want to create a second user that we can use on a day-to-day basis. And this is really simple to do. All we have to do is run a command called add user, and then we want to type in the name that we want our new user. So I'm going to just type my name. Now it's going to prompt us to set a couple of parameters for the user. The first thing it'll ask for is its password, and this will be used if you ever want to SSH directly into this user. There are also other things that we'll ask, you for password verification for. The next thing that it's going to ask for is there's some details we can fill in. It's like full name, office number, room number, phone number. You can just hit enter to skip these if you like. It'll ask you to double check your information, hit yes, and just like that, we've got another user that we can now use for everyday tasks. So if I type in the switch user or SU command followed by the name of the user I want to switch into, I instantly log in. You can see here that the command line has changed. But here's the deal. So if I'm using this user day to day and I can create documents or whatever, that's all well and good. But if I want to run some kind of administrative action, like let's say I want to get the text editor nano. So if I just go apt-get install nano, it's not going to let me do it because I'm not an administrator. I'm just a regular user. I don't have administrative access on this computer. Now I could type, I believe it's exit. Let me see here. Yeah, you can type exit in order to get back to your root account, and then do the install from there and then log back in. But that's a pain. What we want to do is instead we want to get back to root, and what we're going to do is set this new user that we've created so that it's on the sudo list. We're essentially going to give this new user administrative power, and we do that by doing gpasswd and then the name of the user and then sudo. Now, if you're new to this, sudo stands for superusers, and alone it's a command that enables you to invoke administrative capabilities. But here's the deal. On your computer, there's a list of all the users who are able to use the sudo command. If your username's not on that list, it's not going to let you in. So I'll show you this by creating another user real quick. And we'll call him Bob. And we'll give him just a regular password. So we've got our new user, Bob. Now, if I switch into the new user, Bob, and I still try to use sudo, and let's just say I want to, I don't know, install a new web server. So we'll go with like install nginx. It's going to ask for my password, and when I type in the password for Bob's account, it's going to tell me that you're not on the sudoer list. And this incident is going to be reported. So now you're in trouble. Now, this compares with if I log into the other user, Ethan, and then I try to do nginx. It should still prompt for my password. But when I type it in properly, it'll go ahead and do the install. And now the deal is, from now on, anytime that I want to run an administrative command, all I have to do is just use the word sudo before the command. It's that simple. Alright, so we've got our secondary everyday user account. We've given it the ability to take on administrative tasks whenever we like. The last thing we're going to do to kind of lock down this server a little bit is we're going to switch the port that SSH runs on. And the reason we're going to do this is because SSH is a way of getting in touch with your terminal, and it generally runs on port 22, and so sometimes bad guys will use this information to try and attack port 22 because they know that SSH usually runs there. So if they can create specific attacks that overwhelm or overpower your defenses and direct them at port 22, they can usually get in to your secure shell. And it's by no means a very easy thing to do, but by switching the port number, we at least throw one more barrier in their way, which is that they've then got to go sniff out where it is that SSH is running. And you know, there are thousands of ports to choose from. So we're gonna go ahead and switch that. And you're gonna see the reason that I have my local terminal open is because we're gonna test it, and you're going to see that it's got a not profound effect, but it does have an effect on the way you SSH into your terminal. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just run a quick test where we'll SSH into this new user account, and we want now it's important to know that before doing this, you should have set up SSH properly. And if you haven't done that, I'll link to the SSH configuration article in the description to this video. All you have to do in order to connect is ensure that you've created a key pair, you've set up the configuration file on your local machine properly, and you've registered your public key with Terminal's proxy. Those things are all explained very simply in the tutorial. After that happens, you can pretty much connect to any one of your terminals simply by typing this command, SSH, and then the username at your terminalid.terminal.com, and it's going to ask for your password. The only thing that generally keeps people from being able to log in is the fact that they don't usually set passwords on brand new terminals. So you have to remember to set that password before you try this. Okay, so you can see we're in. I'm currently running the command line on my terminal. All I had to do was type in SSH and then the username at the user terminalid.terminal.com. So I'm going to exit that, and just keep that in mind. We're going to change something. So in our terminal, we're going to go ahead and we're going to navigate through our file tree, or you can do this on the command line. We want to find the document called sshd_config, and I'll show you where it's going to be. I'm going to start in the etc directory here, and then we're looking for SSH, our SSH directory. And then there's a document in here called sshd_config, right down here at the bottom. Okay, there's a lot of information in here, but we're really only concerned with one line, and it's right here, port 22. So we can take this and change this to just about any port we like, as long as it's open, so it's not being used, and between the numbers 1025 and 65,536. In the article, we use 5555, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that here as well. But you can choose any number in there, like I said, as long as it's open and between those two numbers. Then we want to save the document. And the last thing we have to do is just restart our SSH service. So we use that sudo command, service SSH restart. And we're all set. So now you should see something interesting happen. If I try to SSH connect just like I did a moment ago, using the exact same command, it should not work. And the reason is the way we've configured SSH in our local configuration files, which again is taught in the SSH tutorial that I'll link to in this video. It immediately tries to access SSH via port 22. We're no longer running on port 22, and so we can't connect that way. In order to connect now, what we need to do is we need to write and then SSH-P space the number of the port we selected, and then the username and the terminal identifier. So Ethan Brooks 86.terminal.com. So the important addition here is that we included the port that we are now running SSH on. Enter your password, and you're good to go. Alright guys, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, and like I said, check out the blog post if you'd like to follow along. Until next time, get out there and make something great.